Hi everyone, I'm Alex Rosenfeld, founder of Freshwater Investments, and this is Coffee with the T-Bird podcast. I sit down with fellow T-Birds who are making an impact in business, leadership, and entrepreneurship. Each episode features conversations that explore the pivotal moments, personal motivations, and lessons learned on their journeys. Whether you're a student, alum, or someone passionate about business and personal growth, you'll walk away with fresh ideas. This is a bit more than a podcast. It's a platform for connections, storytelling, and celebrating the global spirit of Thunderbird. This podcast is sponsored by Freshwater Investments. At Freshwater, we make it simple for you to invest in large apartment communities across the United States so you can earn passive income, grow your capital, and benefit from real estate tax breaks without owning or managing property yourself. Hello, Nimrod. Welcome to the show.
Hello, Alex.
How are you?
Thank you very much. Appreciate the invite.
You are in Budapest, right?
Yes, I am in the river city of Budapest. This is the place where I was born and raised, and I had a hiatus of about 30 years outside of Hungary, and I sort of back in the last 15 to 18 years off and on, yes.
Got it.
It's a cool city.
It is a beautiful city. I love it. I visited several times. I have a great friend from Thunderbird who lives there.
Oh yeah? Yeah.
Yeah.
Which one? Which one is that?
His name is Igor Musadov, and he was one of the guests on this podcast already.
Oh,
so
yeah.
I'm going to have two guests
yes.
from Budapest.
Yes, indeed. Yes.
So let's take me to Hungary when you were growing up. What it was like at that time.
Well, I mean, I was born a long time ago in 1949, and it was a few years after World War II, and of course the city was pretty badly bombed during World War II, and it was interesting to grow up here. Those days. In the early 50s, a leader similar to Joseph Stalin was in charge, and you may recall that during Stalin's part in the Soviet Union, it was kind of a pretty rough situation.
Terrible time.
And but I was a young child, and clearly it didn't matter to me that much. And I was the only child. My parents lived in a smaller apartment in downtown Budapest in the 8th district, and it was a reasonably pleasant childhood as an early child. My grandparents lived in the countryside, so spent some time during my school breaks down in a country, which was a nice break. But as I was growing up, it was fundamentally not a free country. Clearly, it was part of the Soviet Union empire, so to speak, and lived in a small apartment, so it was not a great deal of freedom to hang around at home. So we kind of went to movie theaters and went to coffee houses and stuff like that. So we kind of moved around the city and went to Lake Balaton. So it was decent. I would think it was a decent childhood, and I really enjoyed spending time with my grandpa, who was a good man, and I really learned a lot from him. So it was, I would think, is reasonably okay. By the time that the Berlin Wall came down in 1989, Hungary was the jolliest cell block of the Russian Empire because we had more freedoms than most other countries those days. And when I obviously left Hungary way earlier, yes.
Yeah, and what your parents did for a living?
My father was a lawyer, but he was associated with the prior regime, the pre-communist system. So he was kicked out after he came back from prison camp. He was captured by the Soviet army, and he was sent to Siberia for a few years, for labor kind of stuff. And he came back and he started work as a lawyer, and they kicked him out again because they didn't like his views, although he was not very actively complaining. And he worked in various construction things. So he had a kind of a rough life. he also, turned out to be a drinker, which is not a fun thing to be around. My mom was a doll maker, and she made dolls, and I grew up with a bunch of dolls. The only child with dolls was kind of a bizarre feeling, but she was hanging around with her friends and the ladies who were, making dolls and fixing dolls. So it was kind of an interesting mix. But, but as I got older, I, hooked up with a couple of guys in the neighborhood, and we spent a lot of time outside of home, just in various places. I love movies. We went to see movies all the time and listen to music and, all the good stuff.
Did you have American movies available at that time?
Limited amount of American movies. Those days in Hungary, most Italian and French movies were the Western movies, and I loved, the Italian comedies and, French movies. So that kind of a thing. Limited American movies. Limited. Later, when we brought HBO into Hungary, was one of the unique things to be able to go back to an extensive library of American movies, which never made it to Hungary. So we're able to bring those in, and it was really successful a number of years, obviously, a bit later. Yes,
that's great. That's great. So who was the biggest influence on you growing up?
Well, my grandpa. He was a working class guy, and he was a very kind, gentle soul. Spent a lot of time with him exploring nature. We went out to the forest, and he taught me about mushrooms and taught me about a lot of different things out in the forest. So I really enjoyed nature with him. He was a nice man. So I guess if I want to choose one person, he was perhaps the greatest influence on me as a young person. Yes.
That's great. That's great. And when did you get that idea that you want to leave Hungary and you want to go for the adventure and probably move to US? I don't know. What was it?
Well, it was interesting because after I finished high school, I had a rather turbulent high school career. 6 high schools in 5 years. I was so successful in year 3 that I had to repeat it just to show the folks, how to do it. I was kidding. But by the time I went back to high school, I finished and I did very well. And I applied to go to law school, and they didn't accept me, saying that I'm not a politically reliable person. Keep in mind, those days was a, communist country. And I became a waiter. I went to restaurant school, and I learned about how to be a waiter, which was actually a great psychological training, so to speak, how to understand human nature and how behaviors of various folks could be interpreted. Later on, it was very useful to me in my later life in business. And I had a couple of good friends who escaped Hungary before me. They didn't accept me in law school. I was hanging around there by myself, just like, Jesus, how do I get out of here? So I asked for a passport to get out to the West, and they rejected me by saying that I would probably not come back. They were right about it, but of course, they didn't give me a passport. So after I started to work in a very nice hotel in a restaurant area, I befriended the lady who was kind of a party secretary, and I told her that I'd like to kind of take some time off, visiting Yugoslavia and Bulgaria, kind of in the Eastern Bloc, which required a different kind of passport those days. The West was the blue passport. This was the kind of a pink passport within the Eastern Bloc areas. And I fundamentally didn't say anything to my parents. Got on a train, went to through Croatia to current day Slovenia, and talked to some people. I spoke a little bit of German. Spoke to some people, asked them to show me where the Italian border was, kind of there. And these good friends of mine escaped by walking through the forest, and they sent me a note saying that they were almost captured. So I was concerned about it, so I decided to swim. So I went to rent a little tent nearby the the border in a kind of a camp over there, and went to a local bar, drank a few glasses of liquid nourishment to get me going, and waited till about 10 or so, and I got in the water and I swam over to the Italian side. It was just a gulf in the northern part of the Adriatic Sea between current day Slovenia and Italy, from a town called Ankaran to the Italian town Muggia. Got to the Italian side. It happened to be the Italian Coast Guard. They very nicely arrested me. Asked me what I was doing in a swimming suit. So I tried to explain to them the best way I could. But I was not the first person. So they had a bit of a routine, and they gave me, some clothing, and they gave me some hot chocolate and all this stuff. Called the police, and the police took me some local jail, and where I spent a few days. And afterwards I went to a refugee camp in Italy. So that was kind of official process those days. It took about 6 months. First, you had to ask for political asylum, and then after it was granted, they told me unless I have relatives in various European countries, only Swedish and the Swiss accepted refugees, that I want to go to the United States. Do I have a relative? No. Well, then I need to apply for a refugee visa, which I did. Yeah. And obviously that's a common story. And after working away, picking tomatoes and moving furniture, all kinds of things in a refugee camp, actually near Naples, a place called Capua, which was a town where the refugee camp was. And showed up in New York City in January 1972, and that was an amazing experience of at JFK, seeing those huge stretch limos. It's like, Jesus, this is America, great. Fundamentally rented us, a refugee organization rented me a bed in a hotel, 6 of us in a room. And try to look for a job. They took us next day to a social security office, get a temporary working permit, and kind of look for a couple of places around New York City. But I guess one of my main experiences was they gave us $3 a day. That was kind of a stipend. And a couple of buddies of mine I hooked up with went to 42nd Street and watched a porno flick, man. That was the first real experience in America. I said, that's great.
So that's how the freedom tasted.
That's how freedom was.
What did your parents say when they found out?
Well, they didn't know anything about it. They didn't.
You're on the other side.
No, I mean, I didn't want to put them in a dangerous situation, because the Secret Service came after they found out I left, and they were both interrogated, but fortunately they didn't know anything about it. So basically, when I got out of the opportunity to make a phone call from a refugee camp a few days after they were kind of checked me out, my mom was really, really upset. And she said, come on home, son. I said, well, I'm sorry, Mom, but I can't and I wouldn't. And so anyhow, she made peace with that. But at first she was very upset.
Yeah, no, I understand that. Did you ever think that you would go back to Budapest, to Hungary at that time?
Well, I couldn't because I needed to become an American citizen. And it took 5 years. In fact, I became an American citizen in Phoenix. I went to Thunderbird. So it was kind of a ceremony there. But my mom was able to come out a couple of years after I went to America. From New York, I ended up going to Tulsa, Oklahoma, because I found a Hungarian family who was willing to sponsor me. And I got my first job as a dishwasher in a local Holiday Inn hotel. And my Italian was very handy. I was able to talk to the Mexicans. So it was kind of interesting communications those days, but it was kind of cool. I mean, I knew that I need to start from a very bottom. And then, this family, a Hungarian family, had a son who was finishing law school in Colorado, in Denver. and they suggested maybe I should join the younger person, and it was a very good decision. So the guy came down in a little Volkswagen Bug, and I had a little suitcase, so it was basically very easy, and ended up going to Colorado in Denver in June of 1972, and this guy and I became roommates, and he has been very helpful to me. He had an American girlfriend, and I was able to meet up with some, real Americans, and became involved in the process of learning English and trying to learn about what's happening in America. Yes.
And then you went to college in Denver.
And then as I was able to speak enough English, I got a job as a waiter, working in various restaurants, in very high-end restaurants, because I was a professional waiter. And I finished college in Colorado at University of Colorado. Went to Boulder and Denver, both places. And after finishing college, I had at that time an American girlfriend. We got married, and looking for graduate school. And the question is which graduate school to go to. And I was always interested in international activities. Even in college, I was a business major, but I was focusing on international subjects. So I really was keen on that, and the best international business school was Thunderbird, and applied, and fortunately got accepted. And in September 1976, I started on the Glendale campus in Glendale, Arizona. Yes.
Yeah, I went to the same campus.
Yes, it was a lot of fun. I mean,
a few years later. Tell me about fun.
Well, I mean, it's basically a bunch of like-minded people. Very international. I like all kinds of folks, and they were a bunch of Americans too, but a lot of international. And it was just easygoing. Everybody was there to learn, and it was just a very good environment. We checked out some bars, and we had a very nice community of folks, my classmates, and I. And at that time, my wife got a job in Phoenix, an advertising agency. So we got to know some people from there. So it was just a very, very a nice experience, and I really enjoyed the part of the faculty, the folks who actually were retired business people. I mean, they were some obviously professional, college professors, but some of these folks who basically told us about, what's happening in the real world. Mm-hmm. Fell in love with advertising. A professor by the name of Paul Schlesinger was a professor. What year did you finish at Thunderbird?
2005.
Okay, so you were way after me. And Schlesinger was a retired chairman of an advertising agency, and we started to chat about things. I went out to a glass of wine, and even that time I enjoyed wine. And he says, this is kind of interesting thing. And I don't know whether when you were there, it still had a called advertising program called Internet. Was it something they did those days?
No, I don't think we had it.
Okay, well, it was basically a situation where put together 5 different teams of folks and, simulate an advertising agency environment, an account executive, media, creative, and all kinds of things. And each one of the teams had to choose a product and a country that a product has not been introduced yet. So we chose Kentucky Fried Chicken in Italy. Mm-hmm. So we had to create, a very extensive advertising campaign, did some research and all the good stuff. And I was very happy to be part of the winning team. So it was just a great deal of fun. And many major agencies came to recruit at Thunderbird. And I was fortunate enough to get job opportunities with a couple of agencies. So I chose one DDB out of New York after finishing Thunderbird.
That's great. So it was easy to find a job at that time.
Yes. it was easier fight. It was a good market, and they, sent me a ticket. So I went to interview for a full day interview. Talked to about 10 people, and so I was fortunate to get a job offer and started to work there after finishing on the American Airlines account at Doyle Dane Bernbach. Yes.
That's great. That's great. So what's the most memorable experience during your corporate career? You've done amazing things, and you brought HBO.
Well, I've done a few things. I mean, New York City was obviously the top of the world. I mean, I remember walking on 6th Avenue, and every major building had a major corporation there. So it was just amazing to see, how many huge companies were there. So New York had been a wonderful experience, and the agency business was very good. I learned about creative. I actually always loved art, but it was sort of like amazing to see how high quality creative work is done. I worked on American Airlines first, and the General Foods business. Then I worked on Hershey's Foods, Ralston Purina. I love New York, made in New York, all kinds of stuff. But after a while, New York City, we had one child at that point. New York City is great if you make a lot of money. And I made decent money, but nothing that you would need to, live in a high quality life. We lived on a place called Roosevelt Island, which was in between Queens and New York, but it's still the Manhattan environment. And that's a time when cable television started to evolve in America in the early 80s. And many new cable networks started to call upon me, starting to sell advertising. And I got to know some of those guys. I said, boy, what an interesting new world. And we were thinking about, my ex-wife and I met in Colorado. So it would be nice to go back to Colorado. And fundamentally hooked up with a headhunter, and he showed me a couple of opportunities. And in 1982, I got a job working for a company called United Cable out of Denver, Colorado. That was the 7th largest cable television company in America. And you may or may not know that Denver has been a mecca of cable television. A lot of cable television companies were located there.
Headquartered there?
It was headquartered there. And I was, I got a job as a marketing director. And it was the New York and package user experience had been very useful, because that's the time when the industry really evolved, into the marketing phase, in cable television. And we were wiring places, and it was very amazing. And then, my boss, who was a Harvard MBA and got out of the cable business and moved into cellular business. And I was given the opportunity to head up the whole marketing area, and then started to get into programming, television channels, all this stuff. So it was a great ride for a number of years. And then we ran out of territory in the U.S. Fundamentally, we wired all these, not just us, but many other cable television companies. And then we started to look for international opportunities. I said, yeah, I want to do that. And I was a partner in a company. At the time, we sold the main company and started a new one. And I was a partner at that time in a company and working in London, and setting up cable television operations. And that's the time when Berlin Wall came down, 1989, 1990. Yeah. And instead of coming back home to Denver on the weekends, I went to see my mom in Budapest, and met a bunch of interesting people in the cable television business. And I talked to my partners in America. I said, shit, man, I mean, let's just see what's happening in Eastern Europe. And Time Warner was also interested in the business, and we started to compete with each other. But we basically joined forces, And we did our first company in 1991 in Budapest called Kabelkom. We brought HBO in as a main product, which was a Time Warner product. And it was amazing, starting from scratch, brand new world, building up a new business, hiring people, very few people knew the business. And we ended up using a bunch of Americans first, but decided to really hire younger folks for attitude. The bad communist habits were no good for business. So we got the younger folks and taught them the business, and really did very, 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 very well. And then all of a sudden, opportunities popped up in the Czech Republic. We did an operation there, Slovakia, Poland, Romania, Slovenia. So we really developed a very major international focus there. And I've been traveling around, but basically decided that I would focus on Eastern Europe. And with a business, at that time, we joined forces with Phillips. Formed a company, United Phillips Communication UPC, and I was the chairman of the Central Europe Group. It was a pretty large business, over €1 billion in revenues, and over a few million subscribers. And as it turned out, I was turning 60, and an opportunity came to get out of there, and they were willing to give me a pile of money. I said, "Shit, that sounds like fun." So let's see what else I can do. And that's the time when I got into the wine business, because I always kind of enjoyed.
Oh, you enjoyed
wine. Yes.
So, okay. I was curious. Why wine? Why you making wine? So,
well, it's sort of like
how did you develop that affinity for wine?
I always enjoyed wine. For some reason, my father was a wine drinker. I always enjoyed wine. As a waiter, learned about things. I mean, when I worked for a very nice, high-end Italian restaurant in Colorado, the owner was gracious enough to teach us, waiters of winemaking and, how it works. And at one point I said, I would love to be able to get involved in that kind of a business, which I invested in before I left the corporate world, just an investor. And when I had an opportunity to be the proprietor, so to speak, then fundamentally bought out the partners and focused on a winery in the Eger region of Hungary, which is a cooler climate area similar to the French Burgundy or Russian River Valley in California, Carneros, kind of the coast area. And, the two Burgundy varietals are Chardonnay, Pinot Noir. And we also, have great deal of luck with the Syrah varietal, which is a Northern Rhone varietal. So these are the three international varietals we are focusing on, and plus the some local varietals like Furmint or Cake Francois, which are local varietals. So that's how he started.
So did you buy the existing? Did you buy the existing winery?
I did buy an existing winery.
Rebranded it.
Rebranding it, yes, and refining it, and I also owned 30% of a winery out of Novato, California. It's called Starry Night Winery. San Rafael area. You obviously live in that part of the world, so you know this very well. And a couple of colleagues of mine from the U.S. came to help to rather set it up right in Hungary, because we wanted to be sure that we are focusing on the right varietals with the right clones and all the good things. So we are focusing on a high end quality wines. Yes.
So how big are your operations right now? Like
it's not
acres do you have? How many bottles do you produce?
Thing these days. Not an easy thing these days, because wine as a general thing has been around for ages. I mean, Eger, where the winery is at, had been producing wines over 1,000 years. So it's a lot of history, so to speak. But wine became globally fashionable, thanks predominantly due to the Napa Valley guys, Robert Mondavi, Robert Parker, and some of these guys, who made wine fashionable and really pitched it to my generation. So we are the baby boomer generation. We are a lot of us We are reasonably successful. We are hedonistic, and we enjoyed wine. And it's really, as a result, you probably see wineries are opening up everywhere. I mean, it's amazing. All 50 states in America produce wines. And, in many countries, and because of global warming now, they produce wines in the UK and in Poland, in Sweden. I mean, it's amazing how many of those things. So anyhow, it's a huge volume of wines available. And what's happening is we are getting older. So, I mean, I would, 15 years ago, after 2 bottles of wine, I felt pretty good. But now after 1 bottle of wine, it's shit, man. It's slower. So we cannot drink as much as we used to. And our children, I have 3 children, and they are far more finicky. They are gin and tonic. They're drinking gin and tonic, Prosecco, and all kinds of, stuff. And the weed is a part of the consumption habit. So their wine consumption compared with ours is 1/3 of ours. So now it's sort of like a consolidation going on in the wine industry of, bigger players, because the honest to God truth is, Alex, they've been too fragmented. There are too many small wineries. I mean, that has to be consolidated. So what's happening now in the world is the major brands are buying up smaller guys and building up, a larger, more diversified portfolios. Yes.
Right. So, what type of wine do you make? You produce?
We produce Chardonnay, different Chardonnays. Bâtonnage is our number one brand. Is a Burgundian technology, nice kind of a silky, buttery, very nice wine. We have a Pinot Noir called 777. Is not only a lucky number, but it's a Dijon clone, which is a small berry, nice wine. We have a Syrah as part of the jazz lineup called Soul Syrah in honor of Aretha Franklin. And we have many other things that you have a wine made out of a Furmint varietal called Sky, named after my 6-year-old grandson who lives in Colorado, and have a wine called Aspen, who's named after my 2-year-old granddaughter. So we try to kind of generate a bit of excitement. But I tell you, I'm very grateful for all the experiences I had. In a corporate world, I spent 27 years and the wine business. And, the key to it, staying young, is to move. Don't ever stop. Just kind of physically and mentally try to be active and eat well. Mediterranean diet is recommended. Good quality wine. I guess that's what it is. Yes.
What's your winemaking philosophy?
Well, I believe that making good wine is a way to endear people to it. So basically, after a glass, after a first sip, it has to smile at you, and if it smiles at you, the wine is good. I mean, I used to be involved in a movie business too, as part of my cable television career. And in the movie business, there are roughly 2 kinds of movies. One is the art house movies. Another one is the so-called Hollywood movies. The art house movies are basically an artist, chooses a subject and gets a grant from someone to produce it and make something of it. So you either can sell it or you can't sell it. And one of the lessons I learned from my Californian wine guys friends is that we need to look at this as Steven Spielberg makes movies. Before any kind of a production, he sits down with focus groups, discusses with the right audience, and figures it out what kind of a story to create, and then produce the story in a way that it makes the most commercial sense. It was an interesting sign was on the wall of the creative director of one of my agencies is not creative unless it sells. So fundamentally, the stuff has to sell. If it doesn't sell, then I'm sorry, but it's not good enough. Maybe
That's
too
true.
harsh.
So where do you sell your wine? Where we can buy
Hungary
it?
is the largest market, but the UK is the second largest. Scandinavia, Benelux, Switzerland, and the US as well, and some in China.
So can we buy it online? Is it
Yes.
available in the US online?
NimrodWines.com is the website in America, and it switches to winedispensary.com, which is a retailer in Colorado that ships to about 25 states.
Excellent. I'll post those links
Are you a wine
show
lover?
at the show notes. Yes, I am, and I actually tried. I definitely tried Sky.
Oh, good.
I bought it online a few years ago. It was great white, great summer wine.
Well, to your good health. Did you like it? I mean, it just
Yes, yeah. I did love it.
Good.
Yeah, it was great wine. So let's go to our kind of wrapping the interview, and I'll ask you several questions here.
Sure.
What advice would you give now to a 20-year-old self?
Well, try to figure out what you are good at and what you enjoy doing, and find a position that fits both too. I could have, I would have wanted to be a ballet dancer, but clearly I'm not a right person for that. So really finding that what enjoys, because, work is, as you know, is hard. Putting in effort is really what makes it's a key to success is 10% inspiration, 90% perspiration. So hard work is important. If you already have to spend a lot of time doing something, you might as well spend time on something that you enjoy doing. And I was fortunate that I love the advertising business, and cable television was also fun. So I kind of looked at it as, not work, 12-hour days, but it was afterwards went out with the guys. We started to drink wine and, smoke some cigars and have some fun and make some money at it. So it's kind of another piece. I mean, I have a lot of respect for your social workers, but you need to accept that area is not going to produce a lot of money, depending on what individual. But I assume that someone went to Thunderbird probably is interested in making a little bit of money, right? It's kind of part
absolutely.
of the ethos of Thunderbird, yes.
So what message? I know you were quite involved and still involved with the school, and I met you several times at reunions. What message do you have for T-Bird alums?
Well, I tell you, I think we should talk to each other more, and I'm so glad that you are doing this. And I think that the school, some criticism toward the school, not spending enough time focusing on the alumnus. It should be more involved, spending time together, arranging meetings and learning from each other and doing business with each other. I mean, there are a bunch of smart people. I mean, I really enjoy meeting up with T-Birds, in Colorado, as well as, anytime I travel. Even in Budapest, we are about 8 of us. And we get together from time to time, and in Vienna there are some. I think important for us to stay in touch and help each other and learn each other. In fact, I'm an investor with one of the T-Birds, Dennis Diokno. He's in a medical business, and we are opening clinics in different countries. So we open one in Rome and open one in Milan, and looking at Paris, Lisbon, and Vienna. 2 T-Birds together, so it's kind of nice.
Excellent. Yeah, I'm hoping to have him on my podcast sometime soon.
He's a good man. Dennis is a good guy.
Yeah. We met before. He's great.
Okay.
Perfect.
Good.
So what's one of your favorite places to visit except Colorado and Budapest? And what's your next destination for travel?
Well, I tell you, I love London. For some reason, I love London. I, like to catch a show or two, a couple of musicals. I love musicals. So the theater scene in London is great. But I like to travel. In fact, I'm invited by a fellow T-Bird, Knut Eriksson, to Oslo. He's Norwegian. We're going to have a major party in September. So yes, it's just sort of travel to, I enjoy going to Berlin, and Rome I love, it's a nice place. So just kind of, I guess, all of us are bitten by the travel bug, right?
Yep.
We got to be able to check things out and explore and appreciate the local cultures. And I'm very happy to say that all three of my children are already being, bitten by the travel bug. My oldest one is a T-Bird as well, Tash. The two other ones are not, but, we enjoy traveling. We just went together with Latin America just this spring, took a cruise from Buenos Aires around completely to Santiago de Chile. So it just enjoy exploring cultures, learn about people, try different foods, different wines, just to kind of enjoy the world as much as we can.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Nimrod, for sharing your story, for sharing your wisdom. I really appreciate your time.
Well, thank you very much for doing this, Alex. You are doing a great service. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
All the best.